Vocals can be so hard to mix sometimes. And depending on the singer and how the vocals were recorded, what they use for microphones, whether it's a condenser mic or a dynamic microphone like I'm using, you get so many different palettes of sound. So just having a single plug-in chain doesn't ever seem to work until now. I want to share with you a strategy that I've developed over the last 15 years or so for mixing vocals that seems to work for whatever vocal I throw at it. Doesn't matter what genre it is, as long as you're going for a modern sounding vocal. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to have to tweak it a little bit depending on the song or the project you're working on. But for 99% of the time, this Waves vocal plugin chain just does the trick. Now, if you don't have any of these plugins or you just can't afford them right now, that's totally fine. You can definitely use any stock plugin that does the same thing. It might just take a little bit more work. And if you're looking for some really good free mixing and mastering plugins, I've put together a comprehensive guide for you already. There's a link to that in the description. This guide has everything from compressors, limiters, clippers, distortion, special effects, there's reverbs. These are plugins that I literally use for mixing and mastering music every single day. And some of them even sound better, in my opinion, than some of my paid plugins. So if that sounds interesting to you, go and check out that guide. Again, there's a free download in the description. If you don't know me yet, my name is Bobby Balo. I'm the mixing and mastering engineer at Raytown Productions, and I help you make better sounding music without needing to buy expensive gear or equipment. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining me today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because I drop new videos every single week, and you do not want to miss a single one because they're going to help you level up the quality of your music. So the session today is by a band called Street Urchinz, and they're out of California. So if you like what you hear, definitely go and support them. They are an awesome bunch of dudes. I have links to their social media accounts and all that stuff in the description as well. So when you're dealing with vocals in most sessions, you're going to basically have two different tones. You're going to have a very bright, airy, modern sounding vocal, which is usually recorded with a large diaphragm condenser microphone. Or you're going to have something that's a little bit warmer and not so airy, just like this dynamic mic that I'm using. Okay, so in order for us to have a plug-in chain that works for any of these things, we need to find a way to sculpt the overall balance in a way that adjusts to both a condenser style mic and the dynamic mic. So the first thing we're going to do is put on a multi-band compressor just to reshape the tonality and the balance of the vocal, regardless if it's recorded with a condenser or a dynamic mic. So let's just hear what the vocals sound like. I feel so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long. And I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to. But I know. So you can hear the vocal isn't super bright, right? It sounds kind of warm. So this is probably actually recorded with a dynamic microphone. Now, the way I like to reshape vocals is by using Waves C6, and I absolutely love this plugin. This is my default load state of this plugin, okay? So anytime I load up a track to work on, this is what comes up first. And you probably noticed I didn't use an EQ before. That's because we can handle all the plosives by adjusting the gain in this low band. Let me just give you a quick run through of what I have set up here. So two of these bands are basically parametric bands. Okay, you can move this anywhere you want. So those I have set at 150 hertz and 2500 hertz. And the reason is 150 is where vocals will sometimes get kind of boomy sounding or muddy. And 2.5K is where they can get really annoying and kind of cut through and be harsh and honky sounding. So I typically just set it up this way, and then I'll fine tune it depending on the vocalist style. Everything under about 105 hertz, I'm basically cutting completely away. I'm pulling this down 18 dB, and then we're also going to do some multi-band compression with a range of -6 dB. So it'll pull off another 6 dB if the vocals get too bassy for some reason. So then I have a band from 105 hertz to 3.5K. This basically is going to be the vocal that is reproduced on most lo-fi speaker systems, like let's say your car or a cell phone or something. So this band is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. What I like to do here is lock in a very powerful, full, mid-range vocal sound by boosting 3 dB of the vocal tone, and at the same time, we're going to compress it back down. Actually, we're going to compress it even lower than its normal level. Okay, so what this is doing is we're raising those frequencies into the compressor, and the compressor is actively always pushing that down, so we have a very flat, consistent mid-range of our vocal the entire performance, okay? So this is helping to reshape the vocal tone regardless if it's condenser or dynamic mic, okay? And we're going to follow that same strategy in the higher frequencies too. Most modern vocal sounds are very bright and airy, okay? So what I like to do is we'll boost this high band from 3.5K to 9.5K pretty aggressively, like maybe 8 dB. So it's noticeably bright, okay? And we're going to do the same strategy where we have up to maybe 12, or sometimes I'll even pull us down to minus 16 dB of potential gain reduction, okay? So again, we're boosting those high frequencies to make, on average, the tone to be on the bright side. And then anytime things get too bright, the compressor is going to grab all those frequencies out. Exactly the same strategy for the highest airy band, okay? So everything above 9.5K, I'm going to boost probably at least 8 dB, if not more. Sometimes I've gone up to 12 or 16 dB if I'm missing that air off the vocal. Again, hold this range knob down so that we're also attenuating it so it doesn't run away on us, okay? So let me show you how I dial this in when we're playing the vocal.
Like I've been stuck in this rut for so long.
I mean, you can bypass all the bands. I'll put them in one at a time.
And I'm afraid to make a change from this life.
So this one, again, that cleans up the plosives and any of the really rumbly bass that we don't really want in our vocal.
I feel so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long.
This band is there just to thicken it and keep it consistent.
I've been stuck in this rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change.
Perfect.
From this life that I'm used.
This is going to be our presence, or like the articulation of the vocal.
And I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to, but I know without a goal.
So you can see it's really bright, but it never gets too bright, right? Let's add this air band.
I'm just wasting time, wasting away another day. Like I've been stuck in this rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to.
Now, if you're too aggressive with this, you can actually cause the vocalist to sound like they have a lisp. So be very careful with how much you're actually attenuating. Your threshold's biting into the track too much, or do you have too much gain reduction? So just lower your range. Another thing you can do is change the attack and release parameters. I have very, very fast releases on all my high bands because I want the airiness to stay there. If you have a really long release, you're going to get this weird like pumping motion in the high frequencies, and it's going to be really noticeable and it's going to be distracting. If you want to add a little bit more aggression or presence to the vocal, you can just have a slower attack as well. That'll let any of the little sharp transients jump through before it attenuates the really high frequencies. So let me dial that in.
So alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long.
Too short. Let's open it up.
And I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to, but I know without a goal, I feel so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change.
All right. So I think we're getting a good spot here.
From this life that I'm used to.
Cool. Let's activate this 2.5K band just to help with a little bit of the honkiness of that vocal.
I feel so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change.
So I'm just, You can use the solo band to find the specific frequency.
From this life that I'm used to, but I know without a goal.
Ah, there it is. It's so much smoother now. Let me show you without it.
Stuck in this rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to.
Cool, perfect. And at this point, I think we're pretty good in terms of using the Waves C6 to shape the vocal. Let's now go to the next step. So now what we want to do is we want to squeeze the performance together so we have a consistent level. And typically that's done using just a regular compressor. In this case, I tend to use Waves CLA76. So this is just a 1176 compressor. I think the bluey mode sounds a little bit cooler. It just has a little bit more vibe to it than the black. I always go with this one. Now, there's basically two main parameters you want to worry about: the attack and release. I find that for vocals, usually we want them very close to the front of the mix, so have a really fast release. Okay, and on this type of compressor, a fast release is a high number. It's kind of backwards from how most compressors are designed, but just crank it up here. If the vocalist feels like they're too far in front, you can just slow the release down, and that'll give this sense that the vocalist is going farther back in the mix. And then you can think of this attack knob as like an aggression knob, okay? If you have it really fast, it's just gonna be flat across. It's really not gonna have a lot of movement. It's gonna just kind of be the same the whole way, which is kind of boring in my opinion. So I like to have the attack between like 5 and maybe 2, somewhere in here. That lets a little bit of the performance go through so it feels a little bit more lively. Let's dial in some compression here and just get a nice, solid, consistent performance.
You're so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long. And I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to. But I know without a goal, I'm just wasting time.
And I would say be careful looking at the meter. Trust your ears. You'll know if you're compressing it too much. I know a lot of times people see it and they're like, wow, it goes up to minus 10 dB. Don't let that fool you, right? That might just be a loud moment in the song. So as long as it sounds okay, just go with it.
You're so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long.
Cool, this is a good starting point. I'm liking that. I will say, after compressing the vocal, I think it is a little on the bright side. So let's come back here. Let's bring these down a little bit, and let's boost up that low mid band that helps to thicken the vocal right here, this one.
And I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to.
Cool, there we go. All right, I think we're good to go. Now, the next thing I do is I actually put another compressor after this, but this is a different style. So we used the 76 compressor. Now I'm gonna use CLA2A. So this is an optical style compressor. Basically, it just is a lot slower when it reacts to a signal. So this is gonna help create a more dynamic performance that just makes the vocal more interesting. And it also helps to kind of glue it together, in my opinion. So let's dial this one in.
Like I've been stuck in this rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to. But I know.
So it's getting a little bit too compressed, so let me back this off a little bit.
You're so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to. But I know without a goal.
That feels right to me. I usually don't do too much compression with this one. This one's just there, like I said, as like an insurance policy, okay? At this point, now I have an EQ here just in case there's anything that might be harsh that's making its way through, so we can do a little bit of cutting. But for right now, I think we're okay. I don't think we really need to use this at all. Now, at this point, I always like to put a deesser here just in case something sneaks through. One of the things that drives me crazy listening to music is if you have a really sibilant vocal, and all you need to fix that is a deesser. And Waves makes a great one, and it's just called deesser. It's you can't get more simple than that, right? All right, so let's just dial this in and make sure that it's catching any of the annoying frequencies.
Like I've been stuck in this rut for so long.
And if you really want to dial in the right frequency for this plugin, you can go to the sidechain monitor button here. And now you're only going to hear the frequencies that it's listening to attenuate. Right? So actually, down here is kind of where those frequencies sound the most harsh. Cool. So let's go back to this audio monitor button, and now we'll just pull this fader down so it makes the vocal a little bit easier to hear.
Stuck in this rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to. But I know.
Now, if this attenuate light is flashing all the time, you probably have your threshold set too low, okay? This should only be jumping in when the vocals get too bright.
But I know without a goal, I'm just wasting time, wasting away another day.
Cool.
I feel so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long.
I actually like it better with this opened up, this filter open. Now we have one more thing, and this might be something you're like, whoa, what are you doing? But hear me out, okay? I always put a limiter at the very end. Yeah, I know. People are like, what? A limiter? You already put 3 compressors on the vocals. Why do you need a limiter? Aren't limiters for mastering? Well, maybe. But they also sound good on vocals, okay? In the big picture of mixing a song, we have to have control over each of the different elements. Otherwise, you're going to spend all day volume riding everything to make all the pieces fit together. So if you can really control the performance of the vocal, then you don't have to do like any automation. The song basically just works, okay? So I always tend to put a limiter at the end of my vocal chain, just to make absolutely sure that nothing is going to sneak by and make a tiny moment way too loud in the track. I literally am just using Waves L1. It's like the oldest plugin they've ever had, probably. And I'm just going to bring it down and just basically brick wall it at the point where it just barely is touching it, okay? So let's do that.
And I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to. But I know without a goal.
So you can see the breaths are actually super loud.
So alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long. And I'm afraid to make a change.
But see how this barely is blinking? It's only on very certain moments.
From this life that I'm used to. But I know without a...
So there you have it. Okay, let's hear what it sounds like before and then after the vocal chain.
Rut for so long, and I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to. But I know without a goal, I'm just wasting time, wasting away another day. I feel so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long. And I'm afraid to make a change from this life that I'm used to. But I know without a goal.
I think you can hear it instantly turned a boring, dull vocal that was recorded probably with a dynamic mic into something that sounds modern and bright and airy that we're used to hearing. So the only thing left to do at this point is basically just to add your effects, okay? So your reverbs, delays, all that stuff. I've already taken up a ton of your time, so I'm going to save that for another video. But just to give you a little a taste, well, I'll give you a little tiny taste here.
I feel so alone, like I've been stuck in this rut for so long.
There you have it. That plug-in chain works every single time I use it. It's amazing. I can just literally load up that, and no matter what performer, what singer, what microphone, what preamp they used, this chain always works. So which one of these vocal mixing tricks are you going to use for your mixing workflow? Let me know in the comments. I love seeing people leave comments about their experiences with plugins or different strategies for doing things, because anybody that comes across it is going to learn from that. I want to remind you to go and grab your free downloadable copy of my favorite free mixing and mastering plugins. And again, these are plugins that I use almost every single day. They sound amazing and they're totally free. What more could you ask for? If you feel like supporting me or this channel, all you have to do is share my video with some of your friends online or on Facebook or Reddit or some other community where people are trying to learn to mix music. I'm sure this will help somebody somewhere, so I'd really appreciate that. And with that, I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today, and hope to see you in another video.